Taste and smell. We're going to talk about these two together. They are actually very closely related and work in a very similar way. Not only that, one will affect the other. So we're going to talk about these together. The receptors for both of these are going to be what we call chemoreceptors. So the videos that you've seen before for vestibular sense, vision, and hearing, those are more physical receptors, right? They work by reacting to light or to touch from like the membrane or from sloshing around of material. These are going to be receptors that have chemicals to react to them. And so that's very different from what we see with the other senses. Because even when we get to sense of touch, we're back to physical receptors. So with chemoreceptors, you're going to have some sort of chemical bind to the receptor, and that's going to create an open ion channel to create the action potential to create the signal in the nervous system. So the other ones that we talked about, those you're going to have some sort of sensory reaction that will then send the signal down the nerve. Here, what sends the signal is that attachment of the chemical to the receptor that triggers the ion channel next to it to open, the ions flood in, and that creates that change in the action potential. So you go from those negative millivolts, that negative charge, to a positive charge in that area, and then sends that signal down the neuron and then into the rest of the nervous system. So let's take a look at taste. So we're going to do the same sort of thing that we've done with the other systems. We're going to follow how this works. So the receptor for taste are in your taste buds. Taste buds, though, are not what you think. Most people think your taste buds are the little bumps on your tongue, right? These guys you can see. I know you probably really enjoy that. But those bumps are what, as you can see, are labeled here as papillae. So papillae are basically bumps or little towers. We've got different types, so you can see that there are different types, and if you look at your tongue like in the mirror, you can see that they change shape and size as you go back. If you look at these guys up close, like with a microscope, what you'll see is that they actually have little pits in them, and inside the pits, down inside the grooves, is where you're going to find the taste buds. So you can see we're zooming in. So here they've zoomed in on one type of papillae, and here is that groove. So we're zooming in right here inside of the groove, and there are the taste buds. So that is actually your taste bud. So you can't actually see your taste buds with your eyes. So your taste buds are your receptors. These guys are going to have these little hairs. So you can see the little hairs sticking out. These are what you call gustatory hairs. These are what's going to sense those chemicals. That's where the chemicals are going to attach. Then that signal is going to get sent, boom, you can see right down here, to the nerve fiber that's attached to those taste buds. You can see there's actually different cells here. I'm not worried about in the different cells, but your taste bud's actually made up of a group of cells connected to that nerve cell. So, like I said, your taste sensation starts there at your taste hair. And in order for this to work, the food has to be dissolved in saliva. So this is why if you put something dry in your mouth and you have a dry tongue, you can't taste it. You need to have saliva. You need to have liquid in order to be able to taste, because you need to be able to get the food particles down into those grooves to get them to the taste buds. So this is why almost as soon as you start eating something, you start to salivate. You start getting that saliva in your mouth because your body knows it needs to start dissolving some of that to get it down into your taste buds so that it can start triggering these taste hairs. So the dissolved food in the saliva will make it down to those taste hairs and then trigger the signal down through the nerve fibers and then into your brain. Now, not all of the taste hairs can actually taste everything. You may already be familiar with the fact that there are 5 basic tastes. Actually, you probably know there are 4, right? Most of us were taught there are 4, but there are actually 5 basic tastes. And so the 5 basic tastes are sour, sweet, salty, bitter, and umami. The ones that most of us know are the first 4, right? Sweet and sour, salty and bitter. But there's also umami. So umami is what some people would call savory. So this is the flavor that is in meat, mushrooms, cheese, asparagus. MSG is actually this flavor. And so you're actually going to, in your taste experiments, in the lab on the senses, you're going to try and detect these tastes. These tastes. You've got the little bag of little baggies. Each of those bags has a chemical in it that's safe to consume, that you're going to mix some water in and then see if you can identify which of these tastes they are. And again, you have to dissolve them in water, otherwise you won't be able to taste them. And the thing is that we do have our sense of taste, but those are the only things that our tongue can taste. You can taste sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. But most of your sense of taste actually comes from your sense of smell. About 80% of your sense of taste comes from your sense of smell. And you know this because when you get sick and your nose gets stuffed up, everything tastes the same, right? Nothing tastes right. Not only are you sick and you don't feel very well, but you don't want to eat because nothing tastes good. Everything tastes very bland. Everything tastes sweet, sour, salty, or bitter. That's all you can pretty much taste when you lose your sense of smell. So let's talk about sense of smell and how this guy works. So your sense of smell is going to start with your sensory cells. And your sensory cells are in 2 patches at the top of your nasal passages. So they're not actually in your nose. They are all the way up here. So when you breathe in, the air has to make it through all of this area, your sinuses and so forth. And most of it makes a direct path, but it can also wind its way through up in here. And it needs to make it to these patches right here, this kind of pinkish part that has the yellow branches. This pinkish part with the yellow branches, if you look here, this is where it's zoomed in. That is the area where these sensory cells are. The section of these patches is not very big. It looks huge in this picture, but they're about the size of a dime. So not really that big considering how important this is, to our sense of taste. We have in humans more than 1,000 different smell sensory receptors. So you can see here, these come down in a nerve bundle, and each one goes to a different cell that's sticking out with a chemoreceptor on it. Each of these different smell sensory receptors binds to a different chemical. So this is how we're able to get this wide variety of smell senses, because each chemical will trigger different combinations of smells. So you can have one of these guys attach to one of the sensors, another chemical to another, and again another to another, and that combination of those molecules will give you one smell. Different combination, different smell. Okay, so these 1,000 different smell receptors gives us a wide variety of smells that we can distinguish, because we can make them those individual 1,000 or combinations of those 1,000 receptors. So we can actually detect about 10,000 different odors because we can put these guys into combination. And that sounds pretty impressive, right? Not bad. It is more sensitive than our sense of taste, right? I mean, we saw sense of taste, not very much going on there. We have those 5 basic tastes. And our taste, we need to generally get quite a bit of the material in there to get it to work for our sense of taste. And if you think about it, not only do we smell whatever it is we're eating, but when you have it in your mouth, your nasal cavities are connected to your mouth. And so those particles are also going to go up through your cavities as you're eating. So you're getting both of them, right? Thing is that dogs, their sense of smell is about 100 times better than ours because they have more receptors than we do. So this is why your dog, if you have one, wants to smell everything, because they can smell almost everything. They have more of these different smell receptors, and therefore they can put them into more combinations and have a much more refined sense of smell and differentiate different smells. So they can even, as you may know, be able to differentiate dogs from each other, hence why they mark territory and so forth.